Jai Shri Radhe, Sab Vaishnavan ko Sadenya Sanamra Sadhar Saprem. Jai Shri Krishna. Today is day 150 of our readings of the biographies of the 252 Vaishnav disciples of Sri Gosaiji. Beginning today with Varta 132, the story of one Kshatriya from the east whose wealth was put into Sri Yamunaji, Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Rajasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Gayatri, who manifests from Nanda and is thus a form of her divine loving sentiment. He was born to a Kshatriya family in the east. His parents died when he was 20. He went to the south in search of gainful employment. Sri Gosaiji had come to that very village. He had the vision of Sri Gosaiji as the Supreme Lord, more beautiful than a billion love gods. He wished to become his disciple and requested Sri Gosaiji to initiate him. Sri Gosaiji initiated him with the Lord's name and then departed. He came to Srinathadwara. The Kshatriya earned a lot of money and decided to return to his own village, but he thought that he should donate all his wealth to Sri Gosaiji, and so he came to Srinathadwara. Part 1. One day Sri Gosaiji was adorning Sri Govardhanaji. At that same time the Kshatriya arrived there, bringing all his wealth with him. He came to the temple with the intention of having the holy sight of Sri Govardhanaji. When he arrived, one of Gosaiji's temple sevaks called out to him, "O Maharaj, one of your disciples, a Kshatriya Vaishnava, has come here. He's brought a lot of wealth to donate to you." Sri Gosaiji was dressing and adorning his lord when he heard this call. When he had completed his seva up till Rajbhog, Sri Gosaiji descended from the temple atop Sri Giriraji. The Kshatriya Vaishnava met him and prostrated before him. He donated all his wealth to Sri Gosaiji, who said, "Put everything that he has brought into the Sri Yamunaji river." The Vaishnava asked him, "Why are you doing this?" Sri Gosaiji replied, "When I was told about the wealth, I was serving my lord, and that news distracted my mind. It will be of no good use in the store. The wealth is impure, ungodly, and therefore should be thrown into the Sri Yamunaji river." Hearing this, the Vaishnava took all the wealth to Mataji and put it into the Sri Yamunaji river. None of it was used in Sri Thakurji's seva. Thus it has seen that the Kshatriya faithfully followed Sri Gosaiji's instructions to the very last word. Bhav Prakash, here it is taught that wealth from an impure source must not be used in the Lord's seva. Doing so can lead to hindrance in devotion and to one turning one's back on and becoming contrary to the beloved. One should never accept such wealth. It is also taught here that a Vaishnava should have full and firm faith in the words of their Guru. Thus concludes Varta 132, the story of the Kshatriya from the east, whose wealth was put into the Sri Yamunaji river. He was a recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and an accomplished Vaishnava. There is truly no end to his tale. Varta 133 is the story of two Patel brothers from Gujarat, Bhav Prakash. These are devotees of Tamasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, their names are Bhaktini, the elder brother, and Aveshini, the younger brother, who manifest from Brajamangala and are thus forms of her divine loving sentiment. They were both born into the family of Kunabi Patels in a village in Gujarat. Their parents died when they were about 25 years old. They went on a pilgrimage. They came to Dwaraka at the same time that Sri Gosaiji was there. Sri Gosaiji would daily host a reading of Sri Subodhiniji. The two brothers heard that these readings were taking place and they came there to listen, after which they both wished to be initiated as Sri Gosaiji's disciples. They put their request to Sri Gosaiji and he, seeing their sincere desire, initiated them straight away with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandha. They then asked Sri Gosaiji where their duty now lay, and he answered that they should serve the Lord and keep the company of Vaishnavas. After hearing these instructions, they requested Sri Gosaiji to grant them some seva, and he blessed them by presenting them with this rupa of child Krishna. He taught them all the ways of seva. Thereafter the two brothers returned home, taking their Sri Thakurji with them. There was a group of Vaishnavas living in their village, and they joined them for satsangs, where they read the Pushti texts every day. Part 1. The two brothers were farmers. Nearby, the local king was having a lake dug, out of which emerged a goddess statue. It was 6-foot-tall stone goddess, who then spoke to the king in a dream, saying, "Build me a temple and establish my worship there." The king said he would. When he got up the next morning, the king reckoned that it would be an expensive business to build such a temple, and decided to tax the inhabitants of the village. He would provide some of the money, but would get the rest from the villagers. He ordered his officers to go out to collect money from the villagers for the sake of building the temple. The officers went into the village and took as much money from each of them as they could afford. From some they took half or 1 rupee, and the rich men had to hand over 50 rupees at least. They took as much as they could from each of them according to their ability to pay. They were all happy to give for the sake of having a Devi temple in the village. However, the 2 Patel brothers were disciples of Sri Gosaiji. The officers wanted them to pay 2 rupees. They said that everyone else had contributed. Hearing this, the 2 brothers discussed among themselves. One said, "We live in this king's land, therefore we should give to these 2 rupees. But the other said, "Everything that we own belongs to Sri Gosaiji. That must not be given away for the sake of building a goddess temple." Bhav Prakash. The lesson here is that Vaishnavas should not give their wealth for unrelated purposes, because all they have belongs to the Lord and should be used exclusively for his purposes and seva. Part 1 continued. The 2 Patel brothers told the king's officers that they should collect the money the next day because they did not have it on them. The king's man said, "I am not coming this way tomorrow. Get the money ready for later today." He then left. The 2 brothers began to discuss. "Now what can we do? We cannot waste Sri Thakurji's 2 whole rupees." The younger brother thought of a plan. "There is a dark and muddy well. Let's take the goddess in the middle of the night and throw her down it. Then the king will have no reason to demand tax." The elder brother agreed to this plan. That night they went to where the goddess was, carried her to that well, and put her down it. The goddess took on a most terrifying form and immediately appeared before the king. She woke up the sleeping king. The king and queen were very afraid of her horrible form. They thought she would finish them off. The king, however, summoned his courage and asked her, "Who are you? What have you come here? Why have you come here?" The goddess replied, "You have given me much suffering. Therefore I am going to devour you right now." The king then recognized her to be that goddess and supplicated, "O mother, what kind of suffering have I given you? Please tell me. I only asked the villagers to pay some of the money towards building a temple for you. Some of the money I shall provide myself. I shall finish the building of your temple and people will worship you there. What suffering is there for you in all of this?" The goddess replied to the king, "When you have built the temple, then we shall see. Meanwhile, I am in this dark well." The king was surprised to hear this and asked, "Who in this whole wide world is capable of offending you in this way? Please tell me how you fell into this well. I shall punish anyone from my village who has done this to you." The goddess spoke, "In your village there are 2 Patel brothers. Why did you dare to tax them? They are Vaishnavas and disciples of Sri Gosaiji. You tried to tax them and they threw me into this dark well. This is all your fault. Therefore I am going to devour you." The king pleaded, "I did not know who they were, and so I tried to tax them. Tomorrow I shall exempt them from the tax. Please do not eat me. I committed this offence through ignorance. Please forgive me." The goddess again spoke, "Tomorrow, go and excuse the 2 Patel brothers from the tax. You should always show them respect. If you give them any trouble, then it will not be good for you." After teaching him in this way, the goddess left. The king called his officer and asked them how much tax the Patel brothers owed. The officer informed them that their tax was 2 rupees, but that they had not yet paid it. "I shall send 1 man to collect it from them in the morning." The king instructed him, You do not now need to collect any tax from them. Do not send anyone to their home." The officer agreed to excuse them from any tax, and then he went home. So this is where we are pausing until tomorrow in the story of the 2 Patel brothers from Gujarat. Aaj ke Anand ki Jai Ho Ji. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.